What's going on, boys? Welcome back to the channel, welcome back to the vlog, welcome back to another day of I just don't know what I'm doing. No, I'm just kidding. Well, kind of just kidding, but I'm not really. I'm just gonna dive right into it today because honestly I have a ton of work to do on the S2000, and man, I wish I could communicate in real time with you guys about this stuff because I have so many questions for guys like you who have probably worked on this car before. So I'm just gonna dive into it because here's what I'm looking at. I have the new motor, used. I'm just gonna say new so I don't have to keep correcting myself. The new motor with the harness, everything attached to it, okay? So it's all ready to go. Walk over to the car. So my main thing I'm trying to figure out today is, would it be easier for me to leave the harness on the new motor and swap it all in, and then I really only have to worry about connecting the ECU and basically the main power, I believe, only a few wires? Or would it be worth going through and unplugging everything on the new motor and then plugging it in on the old harness once I get the motor in there? Now, the only thing that makes me want to unplug everything from there and use the factory harness is the fact that there's an alarm built into this car. There was an alarm installed in this car. So once I looked down by the ECU, there were some wires that I don't know where they went, or there's some wires that have been added. If I remove the main harness and the ECU, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna mess with that alarm. I don't know what goes into that. Wiring is not my thing. I can turn a wrench and I can put things together and look at things and see how they're put together. But when it comes to wiring, I am as new as they come. I don't know anything about wiring. So that's what scares me about working with about taking the new motor with its harness and putting it into this car and removing this harness altogether. It's the only thing I'm scared about is that wiring in the alarm. If I wasn't worried about that, then I'd probably just rip this harness out and use that harness since it's connected. Don't know what to do. All right, here's what I'm looking at. I'm gonna go under here. So this is gonna be hard. All right, you can see these are added. This is obviously added and plugs into the harness itself. There's a couple Clifford things up here that I don't know what to do with. Gosh, I wish I knew what to do. I wish I'd done this before. All right, boys, situation update, sit rep. You know what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove the harness from the car. Here's my thinking with that. The harness from the car, there's a ton of, obviously it's the raw wire harness that I would have to track down and connect to the motor once the motor is in there. And things like, you know, if I remove the wire harness on this motor, things like this are gonna be an absolute pain in the butt to get to when I have the motor installed. Alternatively, there's only really, if I remove this wire harness, there's really only like 5 or 6 different things that I'll have to attach to the car, like random grounds and things like that. So if I were to leave this wire harness in, I would have to plug all those plugs in, which is a ton of plugs, a ton of connections. But if I take this wire harness out and use this wire harness, all I'll have to do is connect like 5 or 6 things. So it's gonna be a lot easier to do it that way. The only thing I'm gonna have a problem with is there is that alarm that is tied into this somehow. I don't know how, I don't know alarms. But if you remember on the M3, I actually had a guy come and rip out the old alarm that was in this car. So I gave him a shout. I asked him if he'd be willing to do the same thing on this car. He said, yeah, sure, no problem. So what I'm gonna do is remove this wire harness as much as I can. And then once he gets over here to rip out all the rest of the stuff that I don't need, then we'll be good to go. So that's the plan. I'm gonna get to work on taking this wire harness out. See how it goes. Never done this before. All right, boys, update. I'm actually really stoked with where this is going. So I'm 99% sure these are all aftermarket alarm wires that were ran across the firewall connecting to power or negative or fuses or something. The horn for the alarm was right there, and then there was this little spring thing, and that was for the hood. That was part of the alarm too. I didn't know that. As I told you, I'm not much for alarms. So now what I'm doing is disconnecting the wire harness from the ground locations, and whenever I come across like a ground location, like there's one that I just pulled that goes right down in there. I don't think, maybe you can see it. Right down in there. It's, yeah, anyway, it's blurry, but right down in there. So what I'll do is I'll find that one, I'll take it off, and then I'll run over here and I will label it on here. You can't read my kindergarten writing, but driver's side ground below brake booster, because I don't know what it's actually called, so I'm labeling it on there. And I think that's gonna be the best way for me to do this, because like I was saying again, there's probably only like 6 or 8 grounds or positives or wires that I'll have to connect this way, whereas if I were going to leave my factory harness in and try and connect all the plugs to the motor, there's a lot more variables there, and I would have had to have tried to have ran a wire harness, and that would have been a huge pain in the butt. So I'm actually pretty excited with how this is progressing. So I am going to keep working on this. These little, the only thing I'm running into now is these little zipper ties that go into the chassis. I really don't want to break, but I'm about 99% sure I can buy those, so I might as well just cut them, because those are a huge pain in the butt. So I'm gonna keep working away on this. It's not really stuff I can film a time lapse of, but I'll update you when I got the rest of it pulled. All right, boys, some interesting developments here. So coming out of the firewall, there were 2 big power fuses, like you see here, and then all these wires for the horn or alarm system. These 2 power wires were confusing because you don't, well, as far as I know, you don't need big power wires for an alarm system. So that kind of threw me off. And again, I'm not an expert in this, but from the alarm systems I've seen, the alarm systems I've had installed, the alarm system that was in the E36, I don't think you need big power lines like that for an alarm with 2 gigantic fuses like that. From my experience, those are always used for stereo systems. And that kind of got me thinking, those 2 big red wires, I saw, this one I already pulled, but they were ran along here, and you can see this, into the trunk. Now, the one that I already pulled in there, I thought was weird because it was cut, right? That's a little strange. I thought maybe something happened, but then I come back here and I was looking for the other red wire. Lo and behold, that one is cut too. And then here's there definitely was an amp of some sort, because these wires right here go to, or I'm assuming they do, the speakers back here. So if we think, or if we can conclude that those 2 red wires have been cut, the hood or the convertible top was slashed, I wonder if someone broke into this and stole the amp that I'm assuming was back there, which those 2 red wires probably went to. And I'm assuming those yellow wires probably went to a sub. So I wonder if someone broke in and stole an amp and sub. That makes sense to me. But then what the heck was that alarm system doing? That's bizarre. So I'm gonna keep working on this, but I wanted to update you guys on that because, again, I hope some of you guys will weigh in on this. I'm not an electrical guy, but I can't think of why. And this is a 2-owner car. First owner sold it to the second owner, who I bought it from. Second owner was a dad who gave it to his son. His son went to high school, young kid. I can't think of any reason why, if you're uninstalling a sub and amp, if you're taking it out, why you would need to cut the big red power wires. I can't think of any reason for that. Oh, boys. Well, engine harness pulled. And after looking at that engine harness, I am very, very glad that I decided to keep all the sensors plugged in over there on that motor, as opposed to my original plan, which was to disconnect all the wires from the harness, or from the engine, disconnect all the plugs on this engine and use my my wire harness on the car. Because looking at all these, I would have had to have gone through and connected all of that. And since I'm doing it this way, I literally have like 6 wires to connect, and most of them are grounds and or go to a terminal somewhere. But here's what I need your guys' help with. This right here and these right here are obviously not factory. I have no clue. I'm hoping that these go to the alarm. It has to be to the alarm for some reason. That's the only thing I can think of. But if you guys would let me know what you think that is there for, that would help me out, because these obviously aren't on this one. And I'm not going to be using that ECU either. I'm going to be using the ECU that's in the car because, well, I'm thinking the immobilizer has something to do with the ECU. So the keys that I have will only work with the ECU that's in that car, I think. Now correct me if I'm wrong, because I would love to know if I'm wrong. But I'm not going to use that ECU. I'm going to use that wire harness and plug it into the ECU that came in the car, so I don't have to worry about immobilizer things. But again, let me know what you think about that. Let me know if I'm wrong or if I'm off base on that, because I don't know. And I won't know until I get the engine in. And a lot of stuff can go wrong. But then also these wires. I mean, this yellow wire that goes back to this cluster of wires, which is then ran to, let me see if I can get you some light. I mean, look at this. I know that's not factory. It's hard to get light and film, but I know that this is not factory. You can just obviously tell, but half the wires are like cut. Someone, if you guys could chime in and let me know what you think happened here. I mean, like, this wire is cut. These, I think, go to the speakers behind the seat. There's 2 of them. They both run to the speaker locations behind the seat. But then this is these yellow wires right here. And those, from what I have tracked, those run down the door sill to the door speakers. Unless someone upgraded the entire system, but then why are half of those, like this yellow one right here wasn't even connected to anything. And it was ran, and it looked like it was supposed to go somewhere. I don't know. This is an absolute mystery to me. Let me know what you guys think. If you think the car was broken into and had stereo stuff stolen out of it, because I would love to know. And then also that wire harness, if I could get some S2000 guys to chime in on what that is, or just electronic guys to chime in on what this is, that would be a huge help to me. That's gonna do it for this one, guys. Got the entire engine harness ripped out. Some of the alarm stuff is ripped out. I am going to have an alarm guy or audio guy or whatever they're called come into the house to take out the rest of the alarm wiring and hopefully maybe shed some light on what I'm looking at over there. But if you're new to the channel, smash that subscribe, guys. I got a lot of stuff coming. The E36 has some track days coming up and some modifications coming up. This S2, I'm gonna be getting a lot further along. So hopefully start the car, or at least have the engine in by end of the month. That's my goal, is to get the engine in, not running, but engine in and mounted by the end of the month. I think I can do that. I have a lot of stuff coming up beforehand, but I think I can make that happen. So if you're new to the channel, guys, smash that subscribe, smash the like button if you guys like this video, so I know I can do more videos like this or different editing or whatever. But I will see you guys on the next video. Peace.